show. Step off.
Come on, won't you say it loud? Ayo, we gon' turn this out. Tom Clark's main event. Dropkick now and powerbomb. Ayo, bro, let's bring this on. Hey, hey, what is up? Oh, captain, my captain, show the stuff. Power slam and suplex too. Hot garbage is just for you. Beat breaker, cut a cold red. Figure four, hot times ahead. Since 2014, it's on. It's a 10 count, but stand up strong. Hey kid, no DQ, strong style. Chop, this is how it do. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event.
Hey, what's up, kids? Welcome back to the program. Tom Clark here with you on another Friday. We made it. You believe that? We've made it through another week. How you been? How's everybody doing today, man? Good to see you. Glad everybody's tuning in. As is par for the course, we'll have folks beginning to file in now that we are live, now that you're seeing this pretty face on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad. Maybe your screen mirrored to your TV. There's nothing like Tom in high definition. I'm kidding. There's plenty of stuff much better than Tom high definition. I have a certain amount of ego that I only have on this show. Well, I can't say only on this show, but primarily on the show, I have a certain amount of ego that I only have here. I mean, I don't know why. I just do. Most of it's nonsense. Most of it is just for your benefit. I'm just trying to pop you. I was trying to make you laugh. There's nothing worse than to tune in to a show where the host is just putting himself over like crazy. Well, buckle up. We're about to do it right now. My name's Tom. If you've never tuned into the show before, I'm saying, if you've never tuned into the show here before today, my name's Tom. What's up? I've been podcasting, doing this show that you're watching and listening to right now since 2014. That's right. We're celebrating 10 years of the show here today. Today's episode 353, baby. We're cooking with gas. I'm just saying. We talk about all pro wrestling here all the time. I also have 3 other podcasts. If you're so inclined, would like to check them out. Tom Clark's 6M podcast, Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast, and Tom Clark's Substack podcast. That's right. 4 shows. You want to know why? Because I don't need to sleep. All right. I'm just here to create content, hopefully to make some people laugh here and there, to make some friends, of which I have. And the people that I podcast with are fantastic. But you know who's also fantastic? You, the audience. So I appreciate you. If you're not watching live, you are missing out. Okay? You're missing out on all this and also on the golden pipes. If you believe I have golden pipes, bro, let me tell you. I got some beachfront property in Idaho. I'll sell it to you dirt cheap right now. Okay? I do not have golden pipes. I have to hydrate the pipes. I've said this before on the show. I'm very close to trying hot tea as a means to lubricating the throat. Because, brother, let me tell you, it cracks, man. I crack like the pavement. I crack like cheap wallpaper in the 70s. I'm just saying, it's crazy. I'm okay right now. I haven't talked all day. But I'm going to tell you something. If I'm in 2 or 3 calls, or if I've already podcasted that day, then I go do another show, hoy vey, look out. It's not good. It's not pretty. I mean, I'm pretty. The voice isn't pretty. How many of you guys are done talking about this? Hey, man, I like to just, rant in moments, which is what I'm doing right now. And also to tell you about the shows in the hopes that you'll go check them out. Because I'm going to tell you something else right now. I almost nailed that. I hate when I screw it up. BoinkStudios.com, BOINK, BoinkStudios.com. Look down below. Everything you need to know about yours truly, this show, the other 3, all of our social media platforms, as well as all the co-hosts that I record with on a full-time / part-time basis / middle-of-the-road basis. I don't know what to say. Whatever. You know. I put the brain in the robot, Anyway, go to BoinkStudios.com. Before I start talking to you, I want everybody to do me a favor. If you've not done so, guess what I'm getting ready to ask for? Not a monetary donation, not a pat on the back, not an attaboy, Tom, you killed it. I'm not looking for that. It's nice. It would be nice. But I'm not asking for that right now. You know what I am asking for? Smash the like button. You knew it. You knew it was coming. I have no problem. I have no problem telling you what I want. I've found out a long time ago, when you want something, say it. Put it out into the universe. I'd like to have some likes on my podcast today. Hey. I'm in a fairly good mood. You want to know why? Something happens at my house tonight. Ho, 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 baby. That's all I can say. I wonder how many of you have even brought it up yet. I'll bet you have. Let's go ahead and say hello. Who was up to the stage first today? Robbie is here. Good to see you, Robbie. Good to see you. Brienne says she's liked and shared. What's wrong with the rest of you guys? I'm just playing. Brienne done raise the bar, baby. Raise the bar. You hear me? Everybody be more like Brienne. Blackjack Brienne Milligan. I'm going to call you Blackjack Milligan. Are you kidding me? It's the perfect name. It's not a very girly name. It's a manly name. But it's a strong, powerful name. Own it, Brienne. Own it. She asked if I'm ready for Crown Jewel tomorrow. Hey, man, I always wish nothing but the best for the talent. I always say the same thing every time we discuss a card, whatever it looks like. I want everybody to be safe, have a great show, safe travels there, safe in the ring, safe back home. Okay, and everybody have a great. That includes the guys that build the ring, the production team, everybody. Let's get them back home safe, right? And hopefully it's a banger of a show. That's what I hope for. Am I a fan of what they do with the Saudis? Nah. But that's me talking. Yeah. But again, good luck to them tomorrow, and hopefully everything goes well for them. CRP's in the house. I remember Halloween, dead cats hanging from poles. That day anything goes. So, yeah, yesterday was Halloween, man. Did y'all do anything? Let me just tell you right now. I didn't do anything yesterday. My kid's 16. My kid got over Halloween a long time ago. And it sucks because we used to take them through a neighborhood here by the office. And every year they do it upright. And I miss actually going through the neighborhood. You can't do it now as a dude by himself. It's creepy. It's not a good look, right? So I didn't do it. But like, he was so little, this big he was. And we dress him up as like superheroes and stuff because that was always his jam. Because his dad's jam, and he followed along with me. And I appreciated that. But yeah, I miss him being trick-or-treating age. David Down Under, good to see you, my friend. Hope you and yours are doing well in Australia. Thank you for tuning in. Daryl Hannah. You ever get that joke, Daryl, about your name? Hey, man, there's worse names to have. Daryl Hannah's a good name. What will they do now with Rhea and Relive Angle now that Rhea's injured? They will pivot. I don't know who they're going to pivot to, but real quick, right off the bat, first question of the day, they'll pivot to someone. I know that's a terrible answer, but of course, it's a shame because it's especially a shame because this Rhea and Liv thing has been, I mean, fans love it. They just wanted to kill her. You know what I mean? They'll just have to put it on the side burner for a bit, I would assume. Mean Gene in the house. Good to see you. Mean Gene, smash the like button. Everybody do. Be more like Mean Gene. Man, the ladies in the house, dude. Shut up. Maria is here. Brianne, I appreciate you. Maria is here as well. Man, I love when the ladies show up. Makes my day. Listen, anyone that's watched the show for a while can tell you, we used to have some episodes here where the audience was like 80% women. I'm not kidding. We'd have like 50 people watching or whatever. And I'm telling you right now, the majority, I'm serious, would be, and I'm like, this is the best day ever. Because it's just cool. Do you know what I mean? It's always cool. I welcome everybody in my audience. I don't care, male, female, transgender, whatever persuasion you are, whatever your faith is. If you don't have faith, I don't care. Whatever your background is, I don't care. If you're a wrestling fan, if you're polite and you want to have honest engagement and fun conversation, I'm the host for you. I don't discriminate against anybody, baby. I don't believe in that crap. Everybody's welcome to watch my shows. You're welcome to hate them too, I suppose, if you want to. It's mean. I don't know why you'd want to hate me. I'm the nicest guy you ever done met. I mean, I'm just saying. And plus, I'm pretty. Look at me. A lot of that's dusty, by the way. Some of that pretty talk is dusty. CRP says his wife grew up in Saudi. I didn't know that. I did not know that. You've never told me that before. is that that country is changing. Still nowhere perfect, but changing. And look, progress is good. I'm never going to frown on progress, of course. And I know that this idea of it takes time. I get it. The women wrestling fully clothed and all that stuff. I know that, evolution has to be allowed to happen. I mean, I get that. But at the same time, my primary beef is not just because of that and the way that women are treated in that country, but it's also the Jamal Khashoggi, right? The journalist that was killed a couple of years ago, ordered by the Saudi government. I mean, I can't believe that that's, I don't know. I'm not in that company. I got nothing to do with it. But, I just don't understand how you don't. Well, I know how you don't. Am I right? And I'm sure I know it's Khashoggi, but it's Jamal, I think, or Hamal, I think. I never want to butcher anybody's name. So Brienne, apparently she has suffered, she meaning Rhea Ripley, has suffered a fractured orbital bone. And I don't know how long this means she is going to be out. She had not been announced for any match at Crown Jewel, of course, and there's no timeline for her return. I mean, could just put a spider mask on her and put her back in the ring with a tag team partner. If there's any Crockett era NWA fans out there, you get that reference. CRP gets it. Ray's late. Ray all day. Ray late in the day. No, I'm kidding. You're only 15 minutes short. CRP says her father, meaning his wife, worked for Aramco. They had American-Canadian base there. Her stories of then versus now, watching that pay-per-view and footage around there always makes it worth a watch. Nice. Well, I mean, according to what I'm seeing, as of a day ago, she suffered a fractured orbital bone, but it was last week. That's the latest that I see. I'm not saying you're wrong, Chris, but that's what I've got in front of me right now. I don't know. Let me clarify here. I could absolutely be wrong. It could have been updated. I don't see an update. But yeah, who knows? Should have had you on the show, dude. Mean Gene says, I was so excited Wednesday, even though we thought it was coming. For my name is Orange Cassidy, and I don't have a catchphrase for him and Mox. Yeah. And, they're going to be good. Don't get me wrong. And I understand that. And I probably should have included in the headlines here today that it's Mox and Cassidy, Mox and Orange, not Mox and Allin. But, Darby's back. And, we've got ourselves... Orange is getting a shot. Darby wants a shot. Christians already have a shot waiting on him. It's that company, man, doing weird stuff. So, yeah. What do you guys think about the Orange thing, man? Are you good with it? All this, I'm not a leader, I'm no leader stuff. I mean, I'm sure that the I'm no leader stuff is leading to him actually becoming a leader. I'm sure that's where it's going. But I got to tell you, this stuff where the heels destroy every single week, and it's not, it's just an angle. It's fine. I don't throw my remote in disgust. There's none of that happening. But it can be a little frustrating, if I can be real. It can be a little frustrating because there's just so many heels in that company. I mean, and it looks like there may be more turns coming. I'm like, I don't understand why. It's heel heavy. There's no one to pull for. There's like 3 guys or something. There's more than that. You know what I mean? It just feels like it's CRP says it's hot garbage. I will throw your remote for you. Throw your own freaking remote. You're not breaking my remote, man. Let's talk about this. Lashley and you know what? Yeah, let's stick with that. Lashley and we'll circle back to Mox. Lashley and AEW, as what came to us as a surprise to absolutely no one, because we told you here about this, a month ago or whatever it was, that he had indeed signed with AEW, and that he was at the last pay-per-view, but they held him back because they felt like it was too much going on in the same night to bring him out. And guess what? He's been brought out. So Bobby Lashley is all elite, kids. So MVP gets the mic after that. It was a strange show on Wednesday. I'm going to tell you that the crowd didn't sound like they were there for it, but that's the opinion of a guy on his couch in another state. You know what that means? Nothing. You want to know why? Because I wasn't there. And I don't want anybody to get too upset about, I didn't hear it. Don't worry about that, because I'm telling you right now, we have said this multiple times on my show. If nowhere else you've ever heard it, I promise you've heard it here if you've ever listened to me. Don't assume what you hear on TV is the actual crowd noise. Okay? Because the mic, the mic in the crowd, mic in the ring, all that stuff, that's a very real thing. The acoustics in the building. I've been in situations where I've been inside of a crowd in a pro wrestling event, and dude, there's like basically nothing. And I was told, boy, on TV, you guys are crushing it. I'm like, dude, I didn't hear it. And then I've also had the opposite, where I've been in a crowd that I couldn't hear myself talk to the guy beside of me, but I was told on TV that it sounded like everyone was dead. So, I mean, I just take that with a grain of salt. I'm telling you, I'm not defending AEW. I would say this about WWE too. Take the crowd noise component out of the equation, because I really genuinely do not think it has anything to do with anything. I really don't. And could it? Sure. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I wouldn't really get too hung up on that. You want to get hung up on the number of tickets they sold? That's fine with me. I get it. But I wouldn't get too worked up over the crowd noise kind of thing. And like, not to rant, but the same thing is happening with Ring of Honor, where they'll run spots and stuff and the crowd is just really, really, really quiet. I got news for you. I don't know if you guys watch Ring of Honor back before AEW ever purchased the company. A lot of Ring of Honor shows in the years leading up to that purchase were like that. During spots and stuff, there'd be some applause, but there wouldn't be blowing the roof off. Does it mean the fans weren't enjoying it? Absolutely not. It just means that different crowds are at different shows on different nights. And again, I'm not defending anybody. I'm just trying to give you another perspective here. Gene says they'll do a number one contender match, Mox, Cassidy, Darby. Oh, maybe. I mean, I'm okay with it if they do. It just seems like a convoluted way to get it done. Maria says we all saw this coming about Lashley. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true. They hit it fine, but it's everybody else that just, if MVP and Shelton show up, that the third guy is coming. Fernando says it's a disgrace that WWE does business with a country that has been caught committing similar acts that our enemies do. I mean, I agree, but you know how much WWE cares about Tom Clark. At least this Tom Clark, zero. AEW doesn't care about me either. It's fine. I got enough friends. You know what I mean? I mean, they don't care about me. They don't care about my opinion. They don't care about my podcast. They should. It's fun. I may not be the best dude you've ever seen of her, but I guarantee you I'll be nice to you. I don't know. Isn't that bad when like common decency is all you got to present to somebody? I'm having a weird week. Can I just be honest with you? I'm having a weird week. CRP says I'll be more hung up on the way they decide to film their show and the places they book more than the crowd noise. I agree. Yeah. And by the way, the camera cuts in AEW. I know they've got folks behind the scenes that have worked in the other company, but also in WCW. The camera work is among the worst camera work I've ever seen. And it's getting worse, not worse. It's not getting better. It's just not. I'm sorry. It's just I'm just being real with you. It's not getting any better. And I've noticed. And I hate to say I'm looking for it, but can I be honest with you? I'm looking for it. When Wrestle Dream happened, it happened. The camera cutting way before they should have. A big moment happening, and all of a sudden we're looking at the ramp. And then like there was the spot where MXM Collection did that spot where he hits the guy with the hip and then holds his pose so they can pose together. The camera's over here by the ropes with the ropes in the shot. I'm like, you didn't know that was coming? How are you not following the action? Right? So it's a very, very small example, but I in my opinion, that will clean up when this WB deal thing comes to fruition. and you start seeing them on a much bigger platform. I suspect that will be cleaned up. It's not horrible now. It's enough that I notice. But I do tend to overthink everything as well. Maria says, how does Christian fit in all this with his contract for a championship match? I know why Christian has that contract. I can't tell you, but I know why he has it, and it's a weird reason to have it. But, you know, I don't know, because he ain't cashing in on Mox. Mox will kill him. Not really, right? And if Orange were to beat him, and then Christian cashes in on Orange 5 minutes later, come on. You talk about a momentum killer. I love Christian. Don't get me wrong. I that guy completely, you know, I say reinvent himself, but he's always been really good in the ring. But that character, dude, I'm here for it. Christian got over a character that probably should have been laughed off the stage, kind of like Jericho's character is. Laughed off the stage, that guy is now. Chris is too. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I agree with it. I think Chris is I think he's a legend. I'm sorry. I believe that. You know, I'll leave it up to someone else to discuss whether or not he should still be wrestling. That's not my call. It's really nobody's but his, to be honest with you. But, you know, do I like that gimmick? I don't like that gimmick. I just don't. Josh, what's going on, dude? Good to see you. Maria says, who passes candy to the trick? We don't have trick-or-treaters. We live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and I suspect that the kids in our neighborhood have grown up through the years. I think we've got mostly adults and teenagers now. And yeah, dude, we had nobody. We've had nobody for years. Isn't that weird? I did watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, because every year I watch my Charlie Brown stuff. Man, that's my jam. Oh, CRP. Why didn't I just have you on the show, Chris? I should have invited you. I was talking to you earlier today. By the way, Chris, comment. I'm not saying I'm trying to be a jerk. By the way, you're right. That match between he and Omega, very great. Very great. The match with Randy Orton and WWE. Remember when they ran the angle where Randy couldn't touch him? Or I think it was during a title match or something. He immediately get disqualified or whatever it was. I can't remember. Not a match. It was a stare down. And Christian spit on him and provoked him, and Randy took him down. And I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Right? That's genius. He's such a good heel, dude. I don't know if Christian will ever truly get the respect he deserves. Chris, if you're serious, I'll send you a link. Hold on. We about to have a guest up in here. That's how I roll, baby. Hold on. Boom. Link has been sent. Gene says, have you heard anything physical updates on Adam Copeland? To my knowledge, by the way, as far as the hurricane goes, as you said, apparently he and his family are good. But when he cut that promo with Dax asking for help for donations, he did say that, you know, what was he say? I might see you sooner than you think or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him. I'm not going to say right now. But yeah, dude, I would not be surprised if we saw him sooner rather than later, for sure. And I was going to say they need him. Do they need? But they could use him. First of all, he's such a good dude. And man, the experience, the knowledge, and it just feels like, and look, if you love Punk, that's fine. We don't have to get into that. But it kind of, at least to me, feels like all that stuff that was talked about when Punk got there is what Adam is actually doing. And I'm not blaming Punk or anybody else. Don't get me wrong. But Adam just feels to me to be that kind of guy that will either very easily approach a guy in the back and say, hey, man, if you've got a minute, I'd love to blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I'm sure guys are talking to him. We always have that theory, right? That the younger guys are approaching the veterans. We may never know the truth. Unless you're in the locker room, you may not know the truth. Am I right? But I would hope that things like that are happening because you got all that wisdom just walking around. How in the world are you not tapping those guys on the shoulder and saying, hey, would you watch my match? I cannot tell you the number of shows I've been involved with over the years. I'm not kidding. I've been involved with shows where we had Ricky Morton, we had the Barbarian, we'd have Jimmy Valiant, we'd have oh my goodness, George South. Oh, who else? You name it, we had it. And we would tell our younger guys, like, look, you're going to have veterans in the locker room. Don't be all over them, and you know what I mean. Be respectful, but if you want somebody to watch your match, ask them. Worst they can do is not do it and say no. You know what I mean? So I saw it all the time, and dude, they would do it for real. We always have a monitor in the back, and if that wouldn't work, they'd pick through the curtain sellout, as they would call it. So yeah. Well, kids, we're at the bottom of the hour. Can you believe? And Faye just got here. Oh, Faye, God bless it all. I forgot to invite you to the show today. Didn't I say last week I need to have you back on? Look what I did. Faye, I hang my head in shame. Yeah, I hang my head in shame. Maria, hold on to your comment. Hold on to your comment, Maria. I'm going to circle back to you. We're at the bottom of the hour, kids. Before we get into the next segment, before we do what we do, before we keep doing what we do me a favor. Watch this.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's main event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
What's up? I'm back. Boystudios.com. Visit, bookmark the site today. It's great. I'm telling you. I mean, not the site. I mean, the site's cool. May not be the best thing you ever saw, but it's colorful and it's got links aplenty. And my face is kind of plastered over it, but it's not the first thing you see, so you don't got to worry about that. I save the goodness till as you scroll down, you'll see me pop up on a random YouTube thumbnail. All right, kids. Well, I shot the invitation out there, and the man has accepted. So let's bring up a surprise guest of the day. Everyone, welcome back to the show, Mr. Christopher Patton. Chris, how are you, dude?
Hey. Can you hear me?
Look at you jumping in out of nowhere. How you doing?
I know.
Right?
Dude, Tyra Banks is back there. Didn't even.
Oh, my God, she is. You know what's wrong with that? You know what's wrong with that? Nothing. That's what's wrong with that.
That thing
hung
in the living room for like 4 years.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Hey, your wife's a legend. I'm gonna tell you right now.
My wife is a legend.
She's a legend.
Tyra.
Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't understand that anyone did not love Tyra. Has something changed I'm not aware of?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Really?
She got
you never
off the they kicked her off the X Factor for Terry Crews or whatever. So maybe.
Oh. Oh. Man, interesting. Dude, what have you been up to lately, man? By the way, kids, keep your eyes peeled for this man's website. I got a sneak peek of some graphics today looking pretty good. How far are we? Be honest, are we looking at January 2025? Is that what we're thinking?
I'm trying to get it out in December so I can do a Christmas episode. But realistically, with the way things are moving and the art that I'm having done, maybe latest the beginning of the year. But hopefully I'll do something near Christmas. We'll have a fun. Metal Gear Solid is going to be the first topic. I've talked about that on your show. It's going to be Metal Gear Solid. I have several shows lined up and sketched out of what I want to talk about. I'll throw in there'll still be wrestling talk and music talk. All that stuff will be thrown in, but it is going to be more singularly focused on one topic with maybe some news and reactions to whatever happens in the week. So like if there is a great let's say Hangman Adam Page match, I'm not going to be afraid to talk about that, but it's going to be a little different than just a straight wrestling review show. Yeah,
I like that. I know you've been telling me for a long time you didn't want it to be just a typical. Which, look, I feel you. Like I the stuff I do here now is not what I started off doing. I think I've shared that with you. I'm sure I've shared it with the audience many times before, but this show didn't start off this way. It just morphed into that because I kind of felt like everybody does what I do. So, and that's fine. But yeah, I've always been fond of the idea of doing things different, having a different flavor and a different style to it. So I like that.
Yeah, it's became harder with wrestling review shows with the amount of content that comes out and trying to track, let's say, especially if you're going to cover New Japan during certain months of the year, you're looking at like 20 to 30 hours of wrestling a week, trying to track all that and have a good opinion on it becomes very tough. So more pick and choose. I'm still watching all of the wrestling. I just don't know that I am able to formulate opinions on all of it. Hey, Faye.
People be telling you, hey, I got nice kids in the audience here, man. So no, I get what you mean. And I watch as much as I can, but I'm still catching up on the Super Juniors right now. So we'll see. Man, there's one tag team, and I can't remember their names, but man, they're a fun little tag team. I'll never remember their names now. But you know what? We're sitting here. I got nothing else to do. I'm gonna look that up because I want to give these guys a little bit of press here. And I was not even aware of them at all until I saw them in the on the show here. Let's see here. Have you caught any of it, by the way, lately?
I have not. That's once again with NXT moving to TV, and well, luckily Raw has went to 2 hours. Which, by the way, keep that format. Netflix, it's great. It's a way better show to watch. I've been more focusing on WWE than a lot of obviously I watch Dynamite each week, but some of the other stuff has kind of fallen by the wayside. I think WWE has a really solid product right now, and it's been fun to see my boys Motor City Machine Guns tearing it up. I think they've done a great job bringing them in the push that they've given them. So I know this is not a big WWE talk about podcast, but they have a lot of good stuff going on right now. They're kind of clicking on all cylinders. So,
hey man, I'm on the record, dude. I don't follow it at all as much as I did before, but I've always wished them well. I love that the Guns are having success, man. I hope it continues because, man, I was talking just a few minutes ago about younger guys talking to veterans. I mean, younger tag teams in that locker room have got to be falling all over themselves to talk to these two guys. I don't know how in the world you couldn't. Just to get some advice. Do you know what I mean? Like, wow.
I mean, it's just so surprising they didn't end up in AEW after all those contract teases and things that we were hearing after they came out of TNA. That has to be a Young Bucks thing. I have to think that's the case. They're, Generation Me, the classic feud with them with Motor City Machine Guns. If you're reading any of that stuff back in the day, I feel like that probably has a lot to do with it, but it's a total gain for WWE, who seems to be restructuring their tag division in a positive way. So, I mean, maybe good for all wrestling fans. If you like tag team wrestling, Motor City Machine Gun showing up in WWE shows that there is a focus towards the tag division, which makes me happy, honestly. I think AEW's kind of lost their way on that a little bit.
What's funny is that I think everyone I've ever podcasted with, me included, go, man, they don't do enough tag teams. They meaning whatever company. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that goes, yeah, tag team, blah, screw it, I don't like it. I mean, seriously, have you ever talked to anybody that's like, I don't care about tag team wrestling? It seems like it works so well when it's done right. You know what I mean?
It has to be a statistics thing that started in the 90s where people were looking at ratings for tag matches or something, because that's when the focus started shifting. Because if you go back into the 80s with like the Steiners and the Road Warrior Express and the Rockers, etc., they invented shows. You know what I mean? So there is a love of tag wrestling. I think that somewhere along the way during the Attitude Era, that love of tag wrestling got lost.
Yeah, and it's funny because the tag team era of the 80s was hot, smoking hot. And then the 90s had a great era. In the 2000s, yeah, for sure. But I don't know, not to get into it too deep in the weeds, but you point to different again, like the Bucks or whoever we're talking about in the 2000s and then into the 2010s and 2020s. I guess it depends on how granular you want to get. But there's just so many in the history of it. And it's hard enough, Chris, to sit there and name, okay, give me the best 50 wrestlers of all time. I got to tell you, for me, it'd be tough, not tough, but in terms of ranking, how in the world do you sit down with the 50, especially if you're a certain age, 50 greatest tag teams. I mean, you could do it. You could do more probably, but man, there's been so many good ones over the years. Do you know?
I mean, I think it would be tough because, like, what is the definition of greatest, right? Is it
It's
their
all
push?
subjective.
Is it
Yeah.
was it their run? Because, like, if we're talking about it, like if you're doing a Mount Rushmore or singles wrestlers, it becomes really hard for a
Mhm.
tag team because the great tag teams are few and far between, honestly. And that's why you still have people talking about the Midnight Express, right? Like when you're that good, who can touch you? So in recent memory, the only tag teams we've really seen like that, at least at that level or high level with having those kind of matches, probably FTR and the Briscoes, if I'm being completely honest. Because if you look at those matches over the last, let's say 5 years, what other tag team matches touched those?
I mean, to your point, I can't even pull anything off the top of my head right now.
I mean, maybe the Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in that Hell in a Cell match where Penta bled all over his daughter afterwards.
Yeah. Yes.
maybe that one. But outside of that, I mean, like it's those great tag matches are going to involve the Bucks, FTR, and the Briscoes. And, it's so Motor City Machine Guns building that tag division back up. Also, just because it's on top of my head, because we're talking about tag teams, everyone check out Chris Bay's GoFundMe. If you got $5, chip in on that. Terrible neck injury. One of my favorite tag teams in the past couple of years, or like 3 or 4 years, was him and Jay White together, and also him and Ace Austin together. So if you got it, spare it, because love that guy. I hope he comes back stronger than ever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I would say it's underrated, the run that he and Jay had. I don't know if that's fair. Maybe it's not underrated, but buddy, it may have flew under the radar for some folks who absolutely should have seen it, because it was fun to watch.
Well, it's TNA's fault, right? Like, you did a lot to disillusion people from your product. It got better, but it's hard to get those people back. Like once you've chased them off.
Chris Bay has he's had neck surgery. He's starting rehab already, and daily rehab sessions under the direction of specialists. He continues to show daily improvements that bring a smile to the face of those around him and Bay himself. And that's a statement from Ace Austin. Actually, that was from the promotion itself. Ace Austin's statement was, "I was in the ring with Chris when the incident occurred last Sunday. I've been by his side ever since. It was just as normal as anything we've done in the ring thousands of times. Everything was all right until it wasn't. Each moment is precious, and I'm cherishing every moment I've had in the ring and around the world with Chris, and every moment I have by his side right now. There will be a lot of hard work ahead, but we don't know any other kind of work. Chris won't be alone for any of this. He's going to be surrounded by love and support from every single one of us. The road to recovery is going to be as easy as ABC." Great statement. By the way,
I like you got the tag team name in on the statement as a little nice sign off. That's great.
Marketing, baby. I love it. Yeah, got to sell it. By the way, kids, also keep ELP, El Fantasmo, in your thoughts right now. He apparently, in his words, a little bit of a tumor is the way he's described it, and so he's out. And his statement was awesome. We'll see what happens and what this looks like for him moving forward, and hopefully, whatever it is, they can get to it, and hopefully, it's nothing serious. It's not often, Chris, we get two things. Well, I shouldn't say not often. It can happen. But I think it's been a while since we've seen two things kind of happen at the same time, isn't it?
I mean, usually when it's two big things in a row, it's usually deaths, right? And we have a whole different podcast than the one we're having right now.
Oh, it's fair. Yeah, a couple of days ago, he put on his Instagram, "Just want to get this out of the way so everyone doesn't worry about me. The last 2 weeks, I've had a bunch of scans and tests done. Doctors found a little tumor of cancer. Things are thankfully happening really fast, but I have amazing family, friends, and fans by my side. I'm so grateful to have the support of warriors who have gone through the same thing before. I look forward to helping those who go through it next. Believe me when I say I'm in good spirits, and I'm not nervous, worried, or scared." And then he shifted and took the focus off himself and put it on Chris, saying, "Chris Bay needs your help. And my dream of standing beside Hiroshi Tanahashi defending New Japan Pro Wrestling will still happen. It's just impossible to say when. My fighting spirit has never been stronger. And I promise once I'm ready, I'll be back stronger than ever. So all the best to ELP as well.
Yeah. Sending out good vibes to him and well wishes.
For sure. For sure. Brianne, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you very much. Have a great weekend. So, Chris, while you're here, let's talk about this Bloodline thing because, this is a storyline that keeps on giving. I think they got look, they're going to wrap it up soon. I'm thinking, about 10 years left, they'll wrap it up. So, I mean, in the meantime, we got that's fine. You know what I mean? But like in the meantime, it's people still want to see it. Can't argue with that. What's your thoughts on this moving forward with these guys?
It's interesting because there's already rumors of The Rock not being available for WrestleMania, which I think was the end goal there.
Yep.
But as far as the story goes, fans are still into it. The great wrestlers involved. I think Roman came back hotter after taking the little bit of a break he did. It's good stuff. It's kind of weird because it overshadows everything else that they do. Mm-hmm. So like the Cody Rhodes stuff has cooled off and you'll see this in comments and stuff online of like, we'll see, we told you Cody wasn't as big as he is. And I was like, well, I mean, I think that's just the bloodline is that hot. The story is still that hot. And all props to Paul E. Heyman, Paul E. Dangerously himself on that of keeping that fresh. I mean, he told us like a year ago that is like, oh, dude, we're like in the first quarter. This thing is going to go a while.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be a surprise that it's still going out. I think they've done a good job with bringing people in, kind of splitting the family a little bit. I mean, I'm still enjoying it as a storyline. That's quality to both what they've been able to do with it, long-term story booking, the quality of having Roman on top for so long, very smart. And just like now you get the Uso, you got the Usos, you have Tama Tonga and Tonga Low. It's just cool. It's cool to see that still, developing. The only problem is your top guy is supposed to be Cody Rhodes, and I don't really feel like he's the top guy. And see, this is the thing when everyone knocked Roman for so long, is it's really hard to be the top guy in WWE. I think people take that for granted to be the absolute top guy in WWE. It's very, very tough.
Very tough.
Even focus is clearly on you. It's very hard to do.
And Cody's done a bang up job. I just, some people want to hate him because of reasons, but I think he's done a bang up job. But it reminds me to a certain extent of when Punk was white hot, but John was their guy. And you're like, Punk was the first guy, I think, that to ever outsell John in merch. And they still wouldn't give him the main event of whatever show that John was on. And it, after a while, becomes, all right, you're not listening to the crowd. This is starting to feel weird. But they're ride and die by their top guy. That's Chris. That's how that company's always been. There's no reason to believe they're going to change now. Whoever they deem to be their top guy, that's who they ride with till the end. When that guy retires is when it's over or leaves the company. It seems like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that goes back to Vince Sr., right, with Bruno Sammartino. So it's not even a Vince McMahon Jr. thing. This is the way to do it. When you find that guy, you ride the hot hand as long as you absolutely can.
Yeah.
It's weird with WWE. I think Cody's getting some unnecessary dislike right now because I don't think anything he's doing has been bad. He's just not the top guy in WWE, and he's the champion, which is always going to cause controversy when the champ is not the top guy.
For sure. Yeah. And speaking of Cody as the top guy or as the champ, real quick about this Crown Jewel card, kids, we'll run it down for you. You've got Jay Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Damage Control versus Metaphor. Love that name, by the way. Fatal 4-way tag team match for the WWE Tag Team Women's Championship. Also, I'm sorry, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, I left them out. And you also have LA Knight versus Andrade versus Carmelo for the WWE United States Championship. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Seth freaking Rollins versus Bronson Reed. Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. Singles match for the inaugural WWE Women's Crown Jewel Championship. And Roman Reigns and the Usos versus the Bloodline. 6-man tag team match. And then Gunther, not going to say it the other way, can't make me. Raw's World Heavyweight Champion versus Cody Rhodes. Of course, SmackDown's undisputed WWE Champion. Singles match for the inaugural WWE Crown Jewel Championship. So
What is Gunther's other name? Now that you said it, I forgot like what his gimmick name is.
Well, they all love to go Gunther. I don't care. It's fine. But to me, he's Walter. That's who he is to me. Like,
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't care. I'm one of those guys that's a stickler for weird stuff.
So the whole Gunther is bothersome as a Adventure Time fan, because that's the little penguin the Ice King has.
I forgot about that. Wonderful. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I haven't seen that in a while either. That's good. You may be froze on us there, Chris. It's possible your picture's froze. You may have to jump out and jump back in. Yeah, dude. I used to watch Adventure Time. My kid never got into it, but I have watched it before. It's been a while, though. It's one of those bizarre cartoons that, like, there seemed to be a pattern of bizarre animation that happened with, like, quirky stories and stuff. Regular shows like that. I'm a big regular show guy. We did a 6M podcast on regular show. Excellent little show, man. If you guys have never seen it, you absolutely should check it out. Maria says Crown Jewel is a glorified house show to me. Oh, there you go. Yeah, and I guess it sounds like I'm crapping all over. Again, I'm not crapping on the talent, not even crapping on the company. I just don't like the idea of, again, what is it? Who am I to them? They don't care what I think. But, the whole Saudi thing just feels weird to me. Maria says when Macho Man first became world champion, he had to share the spotlight with Hogan. Yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, I think the show will be good tomorrow night. I don't know how good it'll be. If you guys are going to check it out, let me know. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it. But hopefully we'll get Chris back here in just a scoosh. But also, in the meantime, before we get him back, let me tell you this, because I wanted to talk about it just a bit. Well, we got Chris back. We'll wait on him here. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. The internet completely dropped here. Not sure what that was.
No worries. Tech.
Gunther, little tiny penguin.
That's right. Yeah, I was just saying when you dropped out there that it seemed like that was a part of a window of some kind of, I don't want to say innovative, but like sort of off the wall animation, like regular show. I'm a big regular show guy. I love that freaking show to death. We did a 6M on it. I love it.
Yeah, I got really back into Cartoon Network there for a while with Adventure Time and regular show. The regular show had Tyler the Creator on as a guest, as a character, which is they were doing some unique stuff. I hope they get back there.
Yeah.
I'm not too fond of the lineup. Also, Teen Titans. The Teen Titans show is great if you're a comic fan. It's obviously it's a funny take on it. It's more geared towards children, but it's great. The Batman show that they did is pretty great with Diedrich Bateman,
Diedrich Botter,
the guy with the American flag pants and Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, Diedrich Botter. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. He's great, man.
Yeah, he was great as Batman. Like they've done a lot of cool stuff that kind of gets overlooked a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about wrestling. And
by the way, that Teen Titans Go movie is fantastic. It is so good. When they're on the rooftop doing that little rap, like to the camera, and the big villain's behind them, and there's no music. He's like, oh, what? He's like looking around. Am I supposed to stand here while they dance? What are we doing?
My favorite episode of the Teen Titans Go TV show is when Robin has to house sit the Batcave. It's great.
Like I've seen that.
He opens the freezer and there's like a picture frozen of like Jim Gordon. There's like a lot of like really, if you're an adult, you can enjoy it while watching it with your kids or whatever. There's little nods all over the place in the Batcave.
God, now I gotta go watch that. And then there's the one with I can't remember the name of the show. I've watched so many episodes of it. There's like the bunny rabbits and the cats, and the dad is kind of like Homer Simpson. He's a bunny rabbit. He's a pink bunny. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Someone hit me with the name of that show. It's going to drive me crazy till I think of it.
Bob's Burgers.
No, not Bob's Burgers. Every character in the show is not human. They're actually a creature of some sort. And there's like a brother and sister, I think, or they're two best friends. There's cats, and then there's I can't remember the name of the show.
Amazing. Is it the Gumball?
Amazing World of Gumball. That's it.
Amazing World of Gumball. Yeah. Yeah. Brother Bear's really good too. They're still putting out good content here in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're want to come work for the Cartoon Network, head on here, hang out. We'll go get a drink together.
Sorry, kids, we got sidetracked. Ray's hitting us with his question. DOS effects. Let me tell you something. You only put that up there because you saw me tweet or post about him this week. I know what you're doing. I got to go with DOS effects because, dude, I had forgotten how good that act is. They're so freaking good. So I'll go with them. And then part 2, Ice Cube or Lil Jon. I like Ice Cube. I ain't picking against Lil Jon. It ain't happening. Lil Jon's my man. So. And if Adam Cole invited you to the grand opening of the Adam Cole jewelry store and let you pick out one free item, it's got to be bling. It's got to be loud and disgusting and just insulting to everyone around you. I want the Flavor Flav clock. It's got to be solid gold. That's the item it would be. And if he said one friend can have one as well, would you call me? Sure. Later wanted dinner, which included barbecue brisket, fries, and cold. Well, you can have the sweet tea as long as I can have water. The answer is yes. So there you go. Ray all day getting ready here at the end of the show.
So the first part of this question is kind of hard because EPMD, I love Eric Sermon. I think he's a phenomenal rapper. And that would be my choice just because of Eric Sermon's solo stuff more than EPMD.
Mm-hmm.
But as a group, I would say DOS FX. And once again, I'm from Atlanta, so I can never choose against Little Jon. This is like the third time it's happened to me on your show. So, ATL ho, I guess. Little Jon. And of course, anytime, Ray. Enjoy the Cowboys just getting absolutely spanked by the Falcons this weekend, by the way. Just enjoy that. Accept it into your heart and soul.
Look,
it's a thing that's going to happen.
Ray is a friend of the show. So this is not directed at Ray. So, Ray, don't take this to heart, but here's what I'll say. Of all the fans that I've ever seen on socials or in real life, the most obnoxious, loudest, proudest are Cowboys fans. And I'm always thinking, it's cool to support your team, but maybe let's watch the game first. Because, like, if they, right? So, like, again, Ray, not toward you, but as a whole, Chris, have you in Atlanta, do you see the same? Like they're just the most rah. Am I crazy or what?
Alabama fans, Cowboys fans, Yankees fans, Lakers fans.
Yeah.
The worst. Y'all the worst. Do better.
Chris said that. Yeah. Chris like, it ain't my show. I'll say what I want.
No, I will rate, all joking aside, if you like EPMD, check out that Eric Sermon Breath of Fresh Air mixtape. Came out in like 2012. It's got Redman, Method Man on it. Great, phenomenal album. Check it out. Or phenomenal mixtape, I should say. I think it's like got 10 tracks on it. YouTube for free, but check it out.
I'm gonna have to do that.
It has a really cool version of them doing Jimi Hendrix. I wish the Bob Dylan track.
Along the Watchtower.
Along the Watchtower loop with Redman, Method Man, and Eric Sermon. It's great.
You sold me. By the way, I had to restart earlier and had to sign back into everything. Worst day ever. Every time it happens. Because I got 3 screens with multiple windows on each screen. So when I got to sign out or whatever, shut down and restart, I got to sign back into like 40 websites. So anyway, I was saying that because I was going to look it up here on the Apple Music, formerly known as the iTunes. And what's the name of the album again?
Breath of Fresh Air.
Breath of. There's an album, Breath of Fresh Air, by someone named Shorty Shorty.
Look up Def Squad and Eric Sermon. It'll come up. It's on YouTube. I don't know if it's on Spotify. Like I said, it was a mixtape. It wasn't actually, I don't think it was actually released as an album.
Yeah, it could be on YouTube Music.
But it's
I can look
definitely
it up.
it's definitely on YouTube. At least the video version of it's on YouTube, where it's just a picture of the mixtape. I don't know. I'm out here dropping hot mixtapes, and you're talking about, well, it's not on my Spotify. So
That's
I don't know
good.
what to tell you. We're talking about Eric's sermon. There's going to be a lot of his music that's not on the Spotify.
Yeah, it's true. That's fair. Look, I love APMD. I do. I'm just saying. Like, all right, Robbie's trying to get back on wrestling. Thank you, Robbie. You and Chris have been to wrestling shows and interviewed many wrestlers. Who would you say is the one person that's way different from the person we see in the ring, and who is the same in and out of the ring? I'll let you take that.
Way different. Way different's actually harder. I would say maybe Ken Shamrock. Like well, actually, it depends on if it's me or Dane, because he was really mean to Dane. But to me,
Really?
he's absolute gentleman.
What did Dane do to him?
I don't know. He asked about CM Punk, and that it was go check that interview out. Wrestling Geeks Alliance, you can find that. It's out there. I was talking to Ken Shamrock. It's a pretty funny interview because of that. But Ken Shamrock, surprisingly nicer than what he looks in the ring, because he looked like a madman when he had when he was going against The Rock for that Intercontinental run. And kind of the same in and out. I would say like in and out's so tough, because like if you're being aggressive, what is that? I mean, what does that look like? Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He's kind of the same in and out, the way he talks, the way he acted, especially meeting him at a convention. He was still doing the hoe and so I would say Hacksaw. Yeah, I mean, the weirdest, like I've told this on your show before, but the weirdest interaction I've ever had, this is kind of a sub story, was with Jimmy Snuka before I knew anything about the backstory of Murder, and he was like the nicest dude ever. And he told me the story about how he only drinks Budweiser as a beer because he worked for Budweiser before he got into wrestling. So he only would drink Budweiser as a beer. Like that was like a weird thing. And also I broke my Zippo trying to light a cigarette. So shout out to Jimmy Snuka, but not really, because that Murder stuff happened after, or I found out about that after the fact.
That's an odd story. Yeah, we're still loyal to the brand even after you left that company years ago. I mean, I guess it's fine. He should have got them to sponsor him. I don't know. He's a wrestler. You'd think he'd have thought of that.
That's the 70s, man. He was too busy, throwing women on concrete, and never mind.
Yeah,
too far.
And maybe being coked out of his gourd too, because I mean, a lot of that stuff was happening. It was the 80s. Not to excuse anything. I'm just saying.
Cover-ups by Vinnie Mac, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a greatest hits album. It's not a greatest hits album. Cover-ups, yeah.
We can go down a dark path with Jimmy Snuka's rise to fame after that occurred, and how that was buried for so many years.
It's Friday at 5:00. No, we ain't doing that. So that's a great Patton Report topic, however. See, I'm putting your side over.
Yeah, thank you.
Robbie, I've only got, I'm not going to bore you to tears with it, but I always point back to Jimmy Valiant, because the Jimmy Valiant I grew up with, the Boogeyman, was the guy flying out of the curtain, clapping and pulling up random women and dancing with them and through the crowd and clapping his hands and doing the shaking his knees and shaking his legs stuff, and then getting in the ring and hitting 3 moves and pinning and then going back doing the same thing. Well, when I met Boogie, he was 70 and still working. Okay. He may have been closer. He may have been pushing 70. I don't know. But lost a lot of weight because he's, well, first of all, he's healthy, which is good for him. Because what I was told was, if you want to talk to him, cool. We're backstage. I'm writing storylines at the time. And like, of course we're going to hang out and stuff. But I was told, don't ask him about the 80s. He can't remember any of it. He can remember 50s, 60s, 70s, even 90s, 80s, blank, because he was coked out of his head the whole time. So he doesn't remember anything. But first time I saw him, we met at a local restaurant, Mexican restaurant, and he's chill. I almost didn't recognize him. Very thin guy, Brother man, how you doing? Good to meet you. Like that. He's a hippie. And I'm like, this is not at all what I grew up seeing. I mean, I know he's older. It was a really crazy nice guy, by the way. Him and his wife had traveled there. She came with him. Super nice guy. Well, we get to the show that following Saturday night, and he's up. He's got his gear on and everything. He comes out through that curtain, and Chris, 1980s all over again. This old man, your freaking grandpa, clapping, pulling girls out of the crowd to dance with him in a circle, clapping all the way around, getting to the ring, hitting his 3 moves, pins our guy, gets out of the ring, does the same shtick. I'm like, where did that come from? Like, dude, completely different. I'm like, there's guys half his age who would be gassed by the time they got around the ring doing what he's doing right now. He was fine. I love that story. So,
person that's the same in the ring and out of the ring, Terry Funk. Matt Terry Funk, great guy.
Awesome.
Terry Funk's great. A couple more. Eddie Mansfield is one that would say, not necessarily way different from a wrestling character than in person, but he got accused of a lot of stuff in the 80s for being the 60 Minutes guy who kind of exposed the business, leading to the famous John Stossel slap. I met him. He's super, super nice guy, sweetheart. Honestly, we had nachos together. We shared nachos.
That's a great story.
Eddie Mansfield's a really cool guy. I'm trying to think. I'll give one more just because we're talking about Manny Fernandez. He is completely opposite of everything he ever says because he never stops telling you lies, even when he's telling the truth.
I've been told that. I never got to be in a locker room with him. I never got to meet him.
Manny is a weird cat. It is how I got to spend some time with Terry Funk because they have that West Texas, all those guys from West Texas and that West Texas University, they kind of all know each other and they donate to the college and stuff. So I did get to spend more time with Terry Funk by hanging out with Manny Fernandez. But Manny Fernandez, that was a weird night in Atlanta, Georgia, going to Abdullah the Butcher's China Buffet and coming back with Manny Fernandez after many beers.
Oh, I'm sure.
His stories change through conversations.
Oh, yeah.
So you could ask him the same question from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. It'll be a different story. I love Manny. I normally when we do this interview, the camera's turned the other way. There is a signed autograph Manny Fernandez. Great guy. And if you like drinking, hanging out with Manny Fernandez is a good time. But yeah, very different from him and Rick Rude as a tag team in the NWA. Him dropping the knee on Invader #2, which he still swears to this day was a shoot. He stabbed Tully Blanchard, which he still claims is a shoot. Or no, he hates Tully Blanchard because he got stabbed because of Tully Blanchard flirting with. That's a whole. We'll save that story for next time I'm on. I'll tell the Manny Fernandez telling of why him and Tully Blanchard don't get along.
Man, when he and Rick Rude were tagging and Paul Jones was their manager, I loved that freaking tag team. They should not have fit, and they fit so well.
The Raging Bull doesn't get enough love in NWA in general. Like, one of the first people coming out to music, like him coming out to, was it Beat It? He came out to Michael Jackson. Like, just some kind of interesting stuff. And him and Rick Rude as a tag team is just, both of them as heels, great.
There's something about their look. And they were just wearing black. They didn't even really match. But Paul Jones fit with them. Like, it was one of those perfect storms of, I think, of manager and two wrestlers becoming a tag team.
Also, Deborah McMahon, sweetheart, the same in and out of the ring. And she loved that I loved the Queen Deborah stuff. We talked about that for quite a while. So
nice. You know, you mentioned Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We were on vacation somewhere and stopped off the interstate at a rest stop. And I'm coming out of the restroom, and there's a dude at a spinner rack of something near the register. And he's like this, looking, and it's Duggan. I know it's him. And I'm like, oh, crap. And I always like to be cool because I've been around. I mean, you have too. I've been around wrestlers, so I don't want to be that guy. But I'm like, I'm not going to say anything about my show. I don't care about any of that. I'll just go see if I can shake his hand and say, hey, man, big fan. Travel safe. Good to meet you. I wasn't going to get a picture. I didn't want to do any of that. Well, he's doing this thing, and then he notices me standing there, and he's like, and then does it again. And I'm like, yeah, he looks tired and he's traveling, maybe making a town. Nah, I'm leaving this guy alone. Like, have some respect. You know what I mean? This is not a situation where he's up looking around and walking where there's people. He came in to get gas and maybe some snacks, and he's going to be on his way. So I'll let that alone.
I had a similar experience with Scott Steiner on the Atlanta Hartfield Airport transit train, where it's clearly Scott Steiner because his arm is the size of my head, right? I'm like,
sure.
He just looked in a bad mood. So I was like, I'm not trying to start a fight with this Shoney's owner.
He'll get a promo on you and do some really bad math. There's a 70% chance if you talk to me that 40% of that's going to be, and you're like,
as much as I love Scott Steiner, he looked like he had gotten molested by the TSA. So I didn't feel like bothering him that day on the tram. That was in 2009, 2010 when I was traveling for work.
By the way, real quick, and I got to get the comments. I don't want people to think we forgot about him. But we had a guy in our group that his first name was Adam. And Adam never took the mic. And I'm always like, why don't you talk? And then the guys are like, dude, Adam can't talk. Adam panics. He don't know what to do. And he curses bad. So he'll just default because he's nervous. So he was part of the little heel group that I was the manager of. There was like 20 of us or something. And so we're in the ring and someone spoke, and instead of handing the mic to the manager, because I'm the mouthpiece, they hand it to Adam. So Adam stands there and he just looks at me, and I just went like that. So he proceeds to talk, and dude, there were combinations of curse words I've never heard put together in my life. Curse words that don't fit together. You know what I mean? Like certain curse words fit together. None of these made sense at all. And after I was like, oh, let me just take that from you. So I took it from him. We got backstage, and I'm like, dude. And he's like, oh, God, man. He said, I panicked. I don't know. He's beside himself. He's like, I can't talk, dude. I can't talk. And I'm like, from now on, no one freaking had Adam the mic. Like, my God, he didn't mean to do anything wrong. Panicked. I don't know if it was public speaking. He getting in ring and wrestle all day. Could not talk a lick. Anyway, it reminded me of Steiner. That's all.
It's too bad that he didn't see what Okada's doing on the mic. He could have just done one word and hit you back.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Sal, what's up, man? We did talk about Lashley at the beginning here. I like Lashley quite a bit. Chris, if you want to chime in here, I think there's they have the propensity of having the best feud and the best storyline in that company, in my opinion, because I love Swerve, and I think MVP's awesome. Shelton's great. I think Lashley's going to fit right in. I just wonder how it's going to work. Is it 1-on-3? Is he going to have reinforcements? Is Private Party maybe going to jump in and give him a hand? Could another tag team jump in? Could it be, Ricochet maybe? MVP's kind of gone after Ricochet a little bit. I don't know. What do you think about that?
So I think they should have debuted Lashley at the casino gimmick a couple months ago that we talked about that. I was like, well, if you have Lashley, why would you not have him have a dominant win and have this briefcase thing? And they didn't do that. So as far as his debut, kind of disappointed in what it is. Lashley's a hard guy to book. They don't do a great job of booking big guys in general. Don't have a lot of faith in it. Him and Swerve is interesting as a match, but I don't necessarily. When you look at Bobby Lashley in general, with his accomplishments of having heavyweight titles in both companies he's worked in, both TNA and WWE, you're like, why is this guy not already trying to kill Moxley? Like, why is he? So it's more my problem with his debut is that there was a way better way to do it, and I feel like they dropped the ball as him being this big thing. I feel like they focused more on Shelton Benjamin than Bobby Lashley, which is kind of crazy to me. But I love Shelton and against Shelton, but Bobby Lashley could have been a big get for them and a big push if done right. And so far they have not done anything to make me care more or less about Bobby Lashley. Maybe they'll bring back Lana and Miro at the same time. We could revisit that. That'll be fun.
I think, didn't Lana get her release? And is it Miro gone? Am I crazy? Is he just on the shelf?
Miro is still on the shelf under contract.
Wow.
I think Lana did get released. I was just more making a joke about that.
No, I get it.
marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why not?
Um,
Hey, bring it back. Because
I mean, look,
what they're doing with Bobby Lashley right now is not. I love MVP. Like, why not? You have that Bryan Danielson, all the stuff Bryan Danielson is doing. You got Bobby Lashley right there. Why not just have? If you're gonna have someone destroy Bryan Danielson, why not Bobby Lashley? Why not make that your monster? Like, Moxley doesn't feel or look like a monster to me. He's a brawler. He's more like Terry Funk to me than what they're trying to currently portray him as.
I love Mox. I'm not a huge fan of this angle because I was going to say I'm not a fan of it because I don't know where it's going. That's not just it. I'm not a fan of it because I don't understand what I'm looking at. His reasons for turning still do not make any sense to me. I can't, and I'm not overthinking it because I don't care. But like, I've quit trying to understand it. When Mox cuts a promo, he's freaking great. Do I know what in the world he's talking about at this point? I have a clue. But he's so good. It's hard to not listen to him and be impacted. He's so good at what he does. But like, yeah. And look, to answer your question, why did Lashley not come in to kill Jon? Because Lashley can kill Jon, and they don't want Jon to get killed. So
but why not
him over here? Because that's not what they want, right? They want to keep him.
He's a 4-time champion. You're trying to build up something that'll move your product forward. Your ratings are down. Your show attendance is down. Do something different than what you're currently doing, because obviously Moxley's not working. What you're doing is not working.
And plus, we don't also know, to be fair, we also don't know how MVP Shelton and Lashley came in. Maybe it was Swerve's idea to say, hey, I'm working with these guys. Let's set something up. We don't know that, to be fair.
Yeah, that kind of scares me when you bring that up, because then that's just building them against this NWO of Moxley and Claudio and Wheeler. Had to really reach for Wheeler there. Pac. Still, the Pac even being involved in any of this is just because the contracts of the Death Triangle ran out, which is a whole nother thing that we could spend time on. I almost cursed really hard because I'm still not understanding how the bastard is a part of this group.
I think Pac can do whatever he wants to. I like to think of Pac walking down the fog streets of London in his gear with his wet hair in the middle of the night, just looking for dudes to headbutt, because that's who I think he is. He's a killer. So,
not to be mean to Moxley and what he's doing. I think he is a great promo. The problem is he has the Raven effect of promo, where sometimes the promo doesn't actually mean anything to the storyline he's in. It's the same thing as Wyatt. Even when we did Wyatt's tribute show, I talked about that. I think he's a great promo, but like,
no clue what he's saying.
You know, like, at least in a Dusty Rhodes promo, when he goes off on a ramble about like, dining in the alley with on pork and beans, he still got back to Ric Flair. So you know who he's talking to, who he's talking about, who he wants to fight. That is a problem with a lot of wrestlers right now, is like, what are you actually mad about? Like, what are you? And Moxley he wasn't that at first, but that also points to like, there's not a lot of baby faces. I don't know that like next week they know what Moxley is going to be doing long term. So that's kind of a problem in itself.
And by the way, in my opinion, Mox's best promo in that company was the We're the Good Guys promo. That's in his book too. He's in the stairwell, I think, when he cut it backstage, where he's talking about to his dad picking him up from jail. And I'm like, I freaking love it. I love it. Don't forget, son, we're the good guys. I'm like, it's so good.
My favorite promo was not even a promo. It's from a vignette. It was Eddie Kingston, and he's talking about being sober and how Jericho is pushing him to the limit. And he's like, and I could drown. Or I could drink and sweat. I was like, that's really good. And I was like, how did they not have that on TV? Because it was just one of those backstage things they used on a pre-show.
Yeah.
That one's really great. And like all of Cody's promos were, especially his end of the night promos, some of the stuff that didn't make TV were actually better than a lot of stuff they put on TV.
Yeah. They're bad to hang on to footage. What's up, Jumpin' Jeff's here. Fernando says, how can we have an easement? The Hurt Syndicate, it just got started at the end of Dynamite. I'm not sure I know what you mean. How can we have an easement?
A
Has
breakup?
it? Is it confirmed that it's the Hurt Syndicate now? Everyone's calling it that. Has MVP said that somewhere? I mean, I
Not that
assume.
Last time I looked up MVP on Twitter, he was trying to fight Chris Jericho outside of a hotel lobby. So
Oh my, that's a good story. Hey, listen, tying into Mox, I put this headline up because Darby came down like Sting, except Darby had his pink jacket on, and that's fine. But like getting up in Mox's face and stuff. But Mox has got the full gear match with Orange. Christian's got a title match. I got a title match. I'm sure you have one. All of us have one. And I don't know what in the world's going to happen now. We all thought it was Mox versus Darby. Then it became Mox versus Orange. No clue what's happening. None. How are we factoring in Darby and Orange at the same time? Are we looking at a triple threat here?
I hope not. It should just be Orange. Orange is the one that's beaten Moxley before. He doesn't consistently lose on pay-per-view. He didn't just recently lose to the Jungle Boy. So I think the way that I get that they're trying to build Allin. Allin is a great character. The fans love him. But at the same time, you've done nothing to make us believe that he could beat Moxley. At least with Orange Cassidy, you have past victories that Orange Cassidy has over Moxley. So if it's me booking it, which I would try to make sense out of, I would say you do Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. Cassidy gets killed. Maybe you get the best friends back together. What are those cats doing? Because I haven't seen them on the show in quite a while. Maybe they come out to make the save. Then you can set up something off that. You could do Orange and Mox again. It's 2 pay-per-views right there. That's an 8-week schedule. There you go.
Well, the best friends kind of became the conglomeration. became the conglomeration. And then Mox attacked Chuck Taylor on Dynamite. So Fernando meant assessment. How can we have an assessment? The Hurt Syndicate, it just got started. I don't think we're assessing it, Fernando. I think it's just first impressions. Let's put it that way. That's what I'm doing.
I mean, I can definitely have an assessment. If you don't book Bobby Lashley right, then who cares? That's my assessment. He's the main event star, or should be the main event star of that team. Otherwise, you're just going to have another mid-card faction with MVP as a manager.
Yeah, and yeah, man, it's more hours in the day that we could talk about.
And like I said, I love Sheldon Benjamin, but Sheldon Benjamin wasn't a star in WWE. He wasn't a star in New Japan. He is a mid-card great worker that can have incredible matches, but he's not going to get on the mic and light anyone up or become this bigger thing than what Sheldon Benjamin is, where Bobby Lashley has been a main eventer in multiple places he's went to. And if used correctly as a big guy, could make a big impact, in all joking aside, could make a big difference for AEW because they don't have anyone like Bobby Lashley. They don't have like a Brock Lesnar looking monster, because like even like a Wardlow is dwarfed by Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, God, Bobby's a freaking monster. And I kept thinking, I wonder how he looks under that suit, because traps here, yeah, like kind of like Brock, where it looked like you couldn't, like, I don't know, like there were just 2 big boulders on his freaking shoulders. Like, holy God, unreal. The amount of hours it takes to achieve that. I've never had them. I don't think I'll find out.
Tom's been much nicer about AEW recently since he's changed his mindset of how he should watch wrestling. I am not that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. And this is not at you either for being the opposite of me, but I can only speak from experience. I grieved over the other company for a long time because I just kept feeling like, man, you're giving me the middle finger. What is this? Until I calmed down and took a breath and said, all right, I can either continue to do this or I can find another way to figure this out. So when I realized, oh, they don't care about me. They only care about what the old guy wants. And then, of course, right. But like after a while, it's like, okay, it's a wrestling promotion that says they're about the fans, but they're not, because they won't change and they won't. All right, well, I think I get it now. And then suddenly a burden was lifted. I had to come up with something for AEW because stuff they do, I'm like, dude, I've been in independent promotions in front of 500 people that the storytelling isn't a third convoluted as what I see on Dynamite. absolutely crazy, the stuff that they do sometimes. But it's their company. It's their stories to tell. It's whatever. I can't control it and I can't stop it. Maybe I am too easy on them.
Yeah. I'm looking at your comments right now, and I got 2 responses here.
What we got here?
Janae, Triller TV. The thing about Triller TV, it's the same thing as the previous streaming network they used, is you don't really own your content. So if you buy those through there, you don't really own them, which is why I'm glad that I own all of I bought it through normal cable. I have all that stuff recorded and downloaded to DVR. So when that stuff goes away, if it doesn't show up on HBO Max or whatever, like the BR Sports, once that's done with their AEW contract, all the pay-per-views that people rented off that, they're going to be gone. That content's going to be gone. So you're just not going to have that anymore. So that's why I get a little bit weird about ordering pay-per-views on things like Triller, etc. It's the same thing about buying a movie on Amazon. When you buy a movie on Amazon, you don't own that movie. You own the licensing to that movie as long as it's on that subscriber. So you really need to read the terms and agreements on that stuff. And it's why I'm still a hard proponent of owning physical media. If you really love something and want to own it forever, you should buy a physical copy.
It's kind of like, not exactly the same thing, but whenever I see people uploading their entire lives to Facebook, baby pictures, wedding pictures, they live their entire lives on Facebook, I'm like, do what you want. Free country for now. It's fine. But buddy, if Facebook shuts down, you've lost everything you've ever put on there and you will not get it back.
I apologize so hard for slaughtering your name in the comments. I really do. I'm sorry. Apologies.
Hey, you know what's funny, Gene? I did know a Janae. I have known only one Janae in my time. Nice girl, if that means anything to you.
My great-grandmother's name is Jean, but she spells it Gene.
Interesting. Yeah.
And she lived to be 102. So there you go.
My wife's middle name is Jean, Jean. So yeah, 1,000 ways to spell one name. It's crazy, this language. I don't get it half the time.
And
Fernando's.
Yeah, that's going to be the next one I was going to comment on. Does AEW need another heel faction? That would be my biggest question to that.
But the New Japan method works. It works for them. But to be fair, it doesn't mean it works for AEW. It doesn't mean it can work in every company. But I think that's the model that they've been following since their inception, is the New Japan model.
But what is that? Okay, so what? This is, I think, the thing that AEW wrestles with is, what is the actual thing that you're trying to accomplish as a wrestling company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just trying to be New Japan? Because if you're trying to be New Japan, then you're just doing too much. You're doing too many shows. You don't really need that much TV, etc. The reason the New Japan stuff works is because it's less TV, it's spaced out. But if you have 4 heel factions on the same show that you see twice a week with the same wrestlers, I don't know that it matters too much. You almost get the NWO effect without actually trying to do that, because you have these 5 guys are over here, these 5 guys are over here, these 5 guys are over here. And that's not even talking about like some of the, like what they're currently doing with Adam Cole, who's technically in a faction, right? Or your trios tag teams. Everyone can't be friends with everyone. If you want to do like the friend thing, you just make a really good baby face and you do the Dusty Rhodes, where they, the whole locker room rolls out to save him because he's getting beat up by the dastardly heels. He doesn't necessarily need to be in a group with them. It's just because people respect him for how good of a wrestler he is and how much he carries the company on his back. You don't have to put everyone in a faction all the time. The idea of the New Japan faction in American wrestling, it doesn't work, with the exception of NWO, which mostly worked because Hulk Hogan.
Hot takes. I love factions. I can't help it. I truly can't help it. It can be too much. Anything can be too much, but I'm not anti-faction.
If your faction is the 4 Horsemen, I guess, but if it's just a bunch of random dudes thrown together to throw together with no baby faces to challenge them, what is the point of them being in a group to begin with?
To upset you.
Yeah, to make me mad, to make me heated.
Yeah. I had a friend that always answered that with like, I know why they did it, just to, every time. Yeah, I mean, I get it. And I get it. It's tough. And plus, Fernando's got a good point. NWO, Bischoff took that from Japan. So it's full circle. Full circle moment.
I mean, like I said, the only reason the idea worked is because you turned Hogan heel.
Yeah.
So he took an idea of an invasion from All Japan to New Japan, but it is not at all what the outcome of what WCW actually did. I know that gets called, that's like saying Halloween is like evil Christmas because of the first person shots. It's totally not. They're not the same thing at all.
No, I not duplicated, but look, Bischoff to come up with that on his own. Come on. Like, I'm not saying the guy was an idiot when he ran the company. Like, I think he might be an idiot now, but that's just me.
I don't think that's giving way too much credit for Bischoff thinking about New Japan. This is a guy that was not that well versed in wrestling to begin with, even when he was in AWA. And didn't get hired by WWF as a commentator. Like, I think people give Bischoff way more credit of like his knowledge of wrestling that I don't think that he necessarily had. What he had was he showed up in Nash. People were like, oh, because they were like, oh, he was just on Monday Night Raw. That's weird. And then Scott Hall showed up. Then Nash showed up, and he was like, okay, well, we can do this thing where maybe they work for WWF. I don't think that he was looking at like, it's been a century-long battle between All Japan and New Japan, because WCW was not in a battle with WWF until the moment Hogan switched. So it's just giving too much credit to Bischoff. Honestly.
You could argue there was always tension between NWA and WWF because there was.
I mean, kinda, but like very like if you held someone's forehead, didn't let them walk towards you, kind of tension, I guess. Like if you bullied a kid on the playground, kind of tension.
I mean, I think it's tension when WWF goes to the pay-per-view companies and says, if you carry Starrcade, you won't get WrestleMania. That's friction.
But that's like even before proper WCW with Eric Bischoff, right? Like you're talking.
Oh well, yeah.
You're talking like So that's
Crockett.
Yeah, that's Crockett. So I separate those.
That's fair. By the way, I have to throw this in, and then we're going to open the floor, and then we're going to get out here and start our weekend. Shout out to Phil Lindsay. Phil's my guy, by the way. 6M Podcast, Tom Clark 6M Podcast. Yes, Kenny Omega is returning, and not to AEW. He is going to appear at Power Struggle, November 4th, making an appearance. Does not mean he's working. Nothing like that. It's not been defined what the appearance is. Chris, again, I am dealing with my overall view as it has changed on Mr. Khan's company. But I will tell you, and Phil's got a different opinion, and that's fine. We're all allowed to have our opinions. Doesn't necessarily mean any of us are right or wrong. It is what it is. It's fine. But if I'm Tony Khan, Kenny Omega ain't setting foot nowhere, no how, until it's back on my TV show. This guy is your top face, period. You are building Mox and his crew to be the end-all, be-all. They destroy everybody. And there's one guy, in my opinion, other than Darby and Orange, one guy, when this dude shows up, the whole thing, the walls blow off, all right? That's Kenny Omega. And you're going to let this guy show up in New Japan. I just do not understand. And it's like, well, they have a working deal. I don't care. If I'm Tony Khan, I say, it's not happening. He shows up first on my TV, period. Then he can show up for you afterward. What do you think?
I agree with you. I said that I think we talked about this previously. I was like, because he was working with Kushida in Japan, training him. I was like, I swear if they do Kushida and Omega at like a Tokyo Dome show before he comes back to AEW, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be the 1970s promoter of like, no, my guy's not doing that. But
no,
my guy's not doing that.
Yeah,
Kenny Omega's return to AEW is the massive push that they actually need.
Yes.
The entire company is kind of built on his back and his matches with Okada and the stuff he was doing with Bullet Club. That is what started AEW in a lot of ways. And that's why fans loved it so much. And I would say him being gone let's say since AEW started, he's been gone at least a full year from AEW, which I think has really hurt them.
Yeah.
Because the fans that started with AEW, they liked the Bucks. They thought they loved the Bucks, but what they really loved was Kenny Omega. And the Bucks were kind of just there with Kenny. So I've said this multiple times. Kenny is in a weird spot. I don't think that he's necessarily happy with AEW. And it's kind of like this kind of thing shows that a little bit. And some of the stuff he said on Twitch streams, etc., kind of shows that he's not necessarily happy with what the company is currently doing, which would be very, very unfortunate. I know he's signed up. He's got the same contract as the Bucks, so we will see what happens. But yes, I think it is baffling that you would let your biggest, to me, the biggest star they actually have, or at least the biggest comeback, because you have matches in the bag for Kenny with Ospreay, with Moxley, with Christian even. You have things in the backlog that you can do with Kenny Omega for a while. I would not have him wrestling in Japan. What if he comes back to Japan, you waste that return, he gets hurt?
Exactly right.
In that match.
Yeah.
He's going to sit at home and make $3 million again.
Nothing beats the first time you see anybody. Nothing tops it. It's the first time. Nothing tops it. Like third time, you still love him. Not as much as the first time. And the first time back from injury, New Japan, not in my company. No chance. No way, no how. Like, and again, whatever it takes. Chris, they've gone out of their way. Like Ricochet, and I can't remember who else they've done this with. Sting, maybe. Different guys, do the shtick backstage where they throw the hood over them and no one knows they're there, and they got him on the golf cart and they sneak him in behind the curtain, and then boom, it's surprise, he's here. You'll protect those guys to protect the surprise, but you won't protect your top face from his first appearance back from injury. I don't understand that at all.
So I love New Japan, but they were just a development pool for what AEW wanted to grab. And now that they've grabbed all the wrestlers that they would want to grab from All Japan or New Japan, why would they even bother doing this stuff? They're not doing cross promotion in the cross promotion way. It's let's send my guy to New Japan to get a win and hold one of their titles. Like, what is the end goal? So New Japan fans see it because they're not going to tune in. That's not your market. Like, you're wasting time doing that. So
I agree.
Like, the point of having that relationship is to try to get people like Okada and Tanahashi and Suzuki, and they've all wrestled. Well, one of them is actually signed to, your Jay Whites of the world, for instance. Like, all of the big names that they could have stolen from New Japan, they have stolen at this point. New Japan is in a rebuilding process right now. So there is no benefit for a cross promotion, especially with New Japan not being in America. You're just sending your wrestlers over there to potentially get hurt,
get sick,
whatever. Like, there's no benefit for that. We're not talking about sending them to Mississippi for a GCW show or something. We're talking about sending them across, an 8-hour time difference to come back to your show slightly hungover on a Wednesday from travel to be your next main event. Like, you have to think about that.
Brandon says Tony sometimes books very WWE-ish. I disagree with that because I don't know how we define that. And it's supposed to be an alternative to WWE. That's why Kenny is not happy. I will agree with your second part. Chris, the day that they do anything that goes against their mission statement, which was, we're not those guys. Like, that's a problem. That's why, and Phil had a great point because we had me Phil had the back and forth about Shane McMahon, and I made it very clear, as I'm making it clear now, I have no desire to see Shane McMahon on TV in any form or fashion at all, period. However, it does seem like every time Moxley opens his mouth, something's coming, gotta get ready, blah, 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 and the commentary is going, it's coming, what is it, blah, blah, blah. Well, either it's coming or this is all smoke screen for nothing's coming. I don't know. It's fine. But like, again, if you're not bringing this guy in, I don't know. To me, it's like if you do, and again, Phil's comment on point, by the way, he said if they were to bring him in, it goes directly against everything they've ever said or everything they've ever wanted to be because you put the McMahon on your television. And I'm like, you're not wrong. However, do I think that'll stop him? No, I do not. Now, I'm not predicting anything, but we'll see.
It's still the wrong guy. I mean, the guy is
still the wrong guy.
It's Eric Bischoff. If you want to do the thing that they're trying to do, it's Eric Bischoff. It's not Shane McMahon.
And Bischoff claims that they offered him a deal and he said no.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, sell it, brother. Keep it kayfabe.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
no, I mean, the right guy for if they're doing an invasion, let's take over the company angle. It's Eric Bischoff. It's not Shane McMahon. The McMahon name right now is kind of in a weird state of toxicity
It's
that
not good.
I would not want associated with my product.
It's not good.
I would say that HBO probably WB probably feels the same way. So bringing, even though Shane McMahon is not his father, he's still associated with his father in a way that will potentially hurt whatever. And also, it's Shane McMahon. I don't think he's going to do that, right? Like, I could be wrong. I would lean more heavily into like it's us. Who's the guy that's running Toronto, the Maple Leaf Wrestling Company that used to run TNA? Scott D'Amore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it'd be more believable as like a Scott D'Amore or a Eric Bischoff than it would be Shane McMahon.
I still got to watch Maple Leaf Wrestling's first show. Phil said it was very good, so I got to check it out. I've also heard other people say the same. Fernando says, "What about Vince Russo?" I got 2 words, and the second one's no. Because and Fernando, I'm not being a jerk. I just no. I don't think this guy should be anywhere near a pro wrestling company at all ever. Be done. That's my opinion.
As a character, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But he's not, I don't think that his name carries the same weight as like an Eric Bischoff, right?
No, not at all. No.
So it's one of those things.
Bro, I feel compelled to do that every time someone mentions this guy's name. What kills me, what has always killed me, is that, brother, when you sit back and take credit for The Rock and Stone Cold, I got a problem with that. I got a real problem with that. It's weird.
Oh yeah, he's the reason the WWF won the war, not because Stone Cold is an amazing superstar and cut promos with no, like, there's no angle that Vince Russo could write for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin is just Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He was born that way, dude. He was stunning. Listen, you know this. Everybody knows this. He had the long blonde hair and the Ric Flair robes or the Tully Blanchard robes and WCW talking about, I'll tell you something right now, next week. You're like, oh my God, close it. That's Stone Cold. Like, he was Stone Cold then. You know what I mean?
I mean, if anyone should get things for Stone Cold, it's not Vince Russo. It should be Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's the one that's like, you should just be yourself. Like,
yes,
amplify that. Can't even wrestle. Paul Heyman's just bringing him in to talk crap about WCW. You're like, if anyone should get credit, it's like Paul Heyman's like, no, be more you. Like, lean into it. Not Vince Russo. Vince Russo's ideas. In fact, I will say this. You can get at me on Twitter, at Chris R. Patton. A lot of the Attitude Era outside of the main event is very bad.
Very bad.
Companies.
Yeah.
Especially storytelling wise. Like, you look at a WWF show today or WWE show today, and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Go back and watch some of those Raw. Like, don't take your nostalgia glasses off and watch some of those Monday Night Raws outside of the main event. They're awful. So, same thing with WCW. WCW, like 99 to 2001, is some of the worst things you would ever put in your eyeballs. You could watch all of Roger Corman's horror films and be better suited than watching some of those, nitros.
Terrible. I was in my prime during the Attitude Era and in a room full of dudes and sometimes girlfriends flipping one TV back and forth between both shows. So much garbage. For every great moment, there was 5 terrible moments, like stuff that you don't want to remember again. Yeah, in real time, it wasn't the best era ever. It's still not the best era ever. And I know it's all subjective. You know what the best era ever of all time is, Chris? The era that you grew up with. That's what it's true for, it seems like, everybody. Because that's the wrestling you grew up watching. It's the only wrestling that it ingrained in your memory as a child. You carried it with you. So for people who were kids during that time, the Attitude Era, I'm like, no, it's not.
So I grew up during the Attitude Era, though, and I don't consider it that. So maybe I'm the unicorn, I guess. But
yeah, but
especially going back and watching it, like go back and watch it. Even if you're a big fan of the Attitude Era, go back and watch some of those shows.
Yes.
They're bad.
They're
Even
very
if you're
bad.
not looking at it from like a cancel culture type perspective or whatever, just some of the matches are awful.
Yeah.
Like the Godwins versus like, the Nation of Domination with a young Mark Henry and T-Von.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad stuff on those shows.
Yeah.
Can
It's not awesome.
like WCW, the thing about WCW, the thing about Nitros is they actually did, and this is where I kind of wanted AEW to go, is give high quality matches, but have a meaningful story behind them. And they did that with the cruiserweight division. That's what made WCW kind of the thing to watch from the 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour originally, is because that's when they put all those matches on.
Yeah.
So your Dean Malenkos, your Chris Jerichos, your Eddie Guerreros, your Rey Mysterios, etc. But they all had one goal, which is winning the cruiserweight title, and they told good stories around that. So if there's one thing of the Attitude Era to actually watch on any of those shows, is pretty much the cruiserweight division. And then if you like hardcore wrestling, I guess some of the ECW pay-per-views. But outside of that, outside of the main event of WWF, there's not a whole lot there in the middle, like the mid card.
No, I think you're right. And there's moments. But to Chris's point, kids, go check it out because he's not wrong. Robbie says, I agree about the Attitude Era. Women were used as eye candy 100%. And it's what they wanted. And, I got to be honest with you. I'm so glad we're over that. And not because of, what's 2024, not just because of that, but man, again, and I've said this many times on my show, and on other people's shows too, in real time, as a guy in his 20s, in a room full of guys in their 20s, we're like, Ron Panties, turn the channel, go back to Nitro. Because after a while, it's like, I don't care about this anymore. Why don't they just wrestle? Like, I don't get this,
I mean, to be honest, by the time that stuff was happening, that's after Sonny had already been the most downloaded person on the internet. So the internet existed, right?
Yeah.
So are you really going to wrestling to look at hot ladies at that point? I never understood the lean into that.
The clips everywhere of DX back in the day, and Hunter's in the ring telling a girl, he's telling her to do this to take her.
Yeah.
That's in Charlotte, and I was there that night, that clip. And she was, from where I'm sitting, I mean, nowhere close, but it was close enough that I could see everything. You know who's in front of her? 2 little kids.
Yeah,
and I didn't have kids, and I'm like, ooh, that seems kind of, wait, why is that okay? You know what I mean?
It's the 90s though. Everything was like that, honestly. Like the 90s is such a wild time for like doing things like that on television because of Jerry Springer and Maury and
yes,
all of the trash talk shows basically kind of gave a green light, because if you're showing that during the daytime, then 9 o'clock on USA, that should be no problem. You know what I mean? Like that, as a parent, you're making a decision to take your kids to those shows.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So it's such a weird time in wrestling. I think the Attitude Era is important. It moved Vince McMahon in the right direction to get that company afloat. It also gave us some of the greatest wrestlers of all time with Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, etc. But yeah, it's a going back and watching some of that stuff. And like I said, even if you take any kind of political or your views on like what's wrong or right versus the 90s to now, if you take that stuff out, a lot of the mid-card, low-card wrestling was just bad.
Yeah.
Especially on the WWF product.
Fernando, I like your takes because they're challenging. I appreciate that. To be fair, WWE had to separate themselves from WCW as a business move. It was smart they won the war. That's not the only thing. I still submit, Chris, had WCW not been mishandled, that war would have ended much, much differently. We know the turning point. The turning point was the night that they told Tony Schiavone to sit there and rip on Mick Foley winning their world title, because that was the moment everything started going downhill for WCW.
So, I mean, you have a lot of stuff with WCW, right? You have the AOL Time Warner merger. You have you have Ted Turner himself, the only person that cared about wrestling in that company, selling stock off, so he had less control. So it'd be like if Vince McMahon during the stock merger stuff had sold a lot more to UFC and had lost his position, which eventually did happen, but because of the lawsuits and stuff. There's more to that. The biggest problem, I think the thing that actually hurt them worse that people don't talk about enough when it comes to WCW is 3-hour Nitro and then doing Thunder live.
Yeah.
Because they were the first company to do 2 live shows, and you're talking about 5 hours of TV, the giant payroll that they already had. That I think, as far as a business standpoint, your red and black, like how you make money, your EBITDA, so to speak, is what actually hurt them more than anything else. And then it made it a lot easier for people to look and be like, oh, well, Thunder's not doing that well. They're only drawing 2 million viewers or whatever. It's the same thing that I've talked about with AEW when they had the Saturday, when they introduced the Friday and Saturday show. I was like, that's just too much. It's too much wrestling in an already kind of flooded market. But 3-hour Nitros, especially because they have a hard enough time booking a 2-hour Nitro some nights, did not help. So Greed, Ted Turner, selling stock, the AOL Turner, merger, and then everyone joining the NWO, having like 40 people and doubling down on the fact the NWO should be your cool thing.
Bad booking,
losing Eric Bischoff, and bringing in Vince Russo, who tried to at least, at the very least, I will say he tried to stir it up and make it different, but it was already, at that point, it was already done.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake WCW ever made was when they had Sting not win clean against Hogan, which you could blame more on Hogan.
Yeah. And there, look, you can probably name them on one hand because I can. One is giving away not giving away results. They did that. They got away with that. The night when Shivani ripped on again, Shivani was under orders, and Foley doesn't hold a grudge because why would he? Because he's a great guy. But like Shivani telling the crowd and kind of ripping on Foley, making it sound like it didn't make a difference. And how many millions of people turned the channel at the exact moment he said that? That's a major moment, pivotal moment. Also, Sting not winning clean in the ring. Can't ignore that one. Goldberg getting beat with an effing cattle prod. Are you effing kidding me right now? Harebrained bit of nonsense. And this is the Russo era. But them doing that work shoot with Jarrett, well, not Jericho, but Jarrett and laying down
Hogan.
and freaking ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous because Hogan is like the person they should have been building the angle around as part of the Millionaires or whatever, that they were going New Blood versus the Millionaires, and they flip-flopped it, and then he sued the company. That's the other thing, is they got sued like so much, so often by so many people. What was your 5? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. Disrespecting Flair and making him feel like he was worthless and a piece of crap. Now look, the stuff with Flair since then, I get it, and I'm not approving. All right, but dude, I'm sure you read Flair's book. It's fantastic, and Flair talks about he had such anxiety. You remember those matches where he would get in a sharpshooter or whatever it was, and he's like biting his hand and stuff, like as if he's struggling through the pain. That wasn't pain. He developed a tick where it became biting and stuff because his anxiety was through the roof because Bischoff treated him like immense crap. Like, you disrespect him. Without him, there wouldn't have been a WCW to begin with. Turner, to go back even farther, the only reason Turner made the deal with Crockett was because Flair was part of the deal, and no one bothered telling Rick that because they didn't want him to know, so they didn't have to pay him as much as the guy was freaking worth.
Yeah, Flair, even in the let's say 97, 98, was one of the biggest draws in WCW, if not, because WCW was still heavily based in the South. And if you go back and look at the numbers, the segment numbers, which you can find, Flair matches are always the biggest and most important. He also had one of my favorite WCW pay-per-view matches, him versus Eddie Guerrero at Bash at the Beach.
So good.
Phenomenal match. Flair was still great then. And he got disrespected. And they would because they would let Nash and Hall do their little gimmick, he, after Arn Anderson's neck injury, to dump on Flair even more, they started making fun of Arn's neck injury and the fact this person couldn't wrestle a thing that he loved. Even like, it's ridiculous. I get people love like Nash, Hall, Hogan, etc., but that's like when people talk about CM Punk being a cancer, I look at those three and I'm like, really?
And
as a comparison, really?
And I can't say this with firm certainty, to be fair, because I'd have to go look it up. If I'm remembering correctly, no one even told Arn they were going to do this. And
no,
I'm like,
it was Nash. Just
oh my God.
Nash does that. He shot his shot or whatever. But
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
Which is hilarious because when Samoa Joe did it, Nash had a huge problem in TNA. But whatever.
Isn't that great? I got to be honest, man. Nash is he's a piece of work. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. And
Nash seems like a cool guy to hang out with, but
yes.
not a cool guy to work with.
No.
That's what I've gathered from Nash over the years. Like,
dude,
I'm sure if me and Nash were having a beer and some wings, or he drinks wine, I guess he would have wine and I would have a beer and some wings. It'd be a fun time. But working with him, oh no.
No. And it seems like it was during the NWO era, I believe. He did an interview somewhere. I forget. It may have been on DVD. He was still driving the Ford Bronco he bought with his 91 SummerSlam check. And because he wasn't, as much as on TV, it was about, it wasn't like that for him. Like he wasn't, he put on airs, as they would say, where we live here in the country. It didn't seem like him. So I'm always like, I got a level of respect for him. And I don't think he's a bad dude. And I got to be honest with you. I'm the kind of guy, when everybody craps on somebody, Tom is not quick. You keep doing it, I'm going to find a reason to take up for that dude. I don't know what it is. If the underdog I love so much, I don't know what it is. I don't like to see people getting ganged up on. I can't help it. After a while, it's like, all right, I've heard enough. Get off this guy's back. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
It's called, I think it's more called like watching wrestling in middle school.
Maybe so.
You were the underdog.
Oh my God. You have no idea. Well, you do. Yeah. Fernando, I think, hit it. Never give talent creative control. Never. And Hogan still denies that, doesn't he?
No, he had creative control. I think he's pretty much, well, Hogan lies about everything at this point.
Sure. Of course.
But yeah, I mean, it was pretty open but Hogan's creative control worked. Like, WCW doesn't get to its height without giving Hogan that level of creative control in having the ability to turn him heel later on because you pleased him earlier. Because like without Hogan turning heel and becoming Hollywood Hogan, I don't know that company, or they don't even come in the conversation if he doesn't show up to begin with. So if they don't give him creative control, he doesn't sign that contract for WCW, then we're having an entirely different conversation altogether.
Right.
Because without Hogan, they're like below what AEW is doing in the ratings right now.
Hard to argue, but it worked till it didn't work. And then the famous catchphrase, that's not going to work for me, brother. Like, it extended far beyond NWO and WCW because it did. And
it worked until they built an 8-month storyline with Sting, and then Hogan somehow. Because I mean, it all goes back to that. That's when the wheels fell off the bus to me. That's the clear. They had built Sting into one of the biggest stars of all time in wrestling, and easily could have pushed that NWO versus Sting with Nash and Hall and Hogan and whoever else from the NWO wanted some of Sting, right? Or you could have done Bret Hart and Sting after that. But him like not winning that clean, that's really that is the start of the decline of WCW by far. And
I love Sting. Mad respect for Sting. I'm telling you right now, if you don't like Sting, I question a lot of things. But like, as you said, that moment was like one of the coolest things. A great effing build. It was so good. And like, we finally get there. Then the weird stuff with the ref and Brett going to the fast count. I'm like, no, it wasn't. That wasn't a fast count. What are we doing? So that felt weird, but he wins. I'm like, all right, I don't care about that stuff. Doesn't matter. He won. I'm doing this. Right?
Until Nitro.
No. Until Sting looks into the camera and speaks Spanish. And I thought, I'm going, what? And I'm like, love Sting. You have to understand the gravity of this moment. Whatever you do is going to be remembered forever. This is a big deal. And he looked in the camera and spoke Spanish. It wasn't linked to anything.
What did he say in Spanish? Was it
no clue?
That was I'm trying to say this politely without cursing.
Sure.
But maybe what he said in Spanish was to get across that, hey, that was horse crap.
Perhaps that's a good point. But still, the guy hadn't talked in a year, hadn't said a word. And I'm like, what in the world would make you, I don't know. See,
I mean, what would make you speak and break character? Hogan, Neil Patrick, Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
The straw, honestly, you did all that work and then they just swept it out from under you. So why do you care? Why?
Maybe,
honestly, maybe that's what it was. He's like, well, I did all this. I was supposed to be the biggest star and you just took the moment from me. So why do I care?
To be fair, maybe you're right. To be fair. And it's one of those things where like, you just want something to be perfect. And then it happens. And you're like, that wasn't perfect. Like it's ruined, not ruined, but I don't know. You build it up in your head. Oh, Fernando's hanging out with us, man. I appreciate you very much. The Poke of Doom was a nail in the coffin. I think it happened before then.
Yeah, it didn't help. It was downhill before then, but that is one thing you can look back and laugh at for sure. Is like, wow, they really did that.
By the way, Fernando, I'm back to disagreeing with you. I disagree about this stuff with help me out. I'm blanking on his name.
David Arquette.
I disagree.
It's also one of those things that we were just talking about where it was already headed downhill. So
the decision had already been made. And a couple things to point out. Arquette said, do not give me that belt. You got no business giving me that belt. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to screw up anything. I'm a fan. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. Do not give me that belt. And supposedly Bischoff and whoever else said you're getting the belt because they really wanted this to happen. Number two, he goes to Flair backstage, nervous as all get out, and asks Rick, what am I supposed to do? What do I do? And Rick's like, look, they're going to give it to you. He said, you know what you do? He said, after the show, and I guess it was a local bar or whatever, he said, most of the boys are going to be there. He said, go take the belt with you. And he said, lay it on the bar and by everybody around. He said, trust me. So they get there and he does it. And all the boys are fine after that because they saw he wasn't trying to be a showboat. He wasn't trying to be a celebrity and he didn't know what to do. I've never blamed Arquette for any of that.
No, it's not David Arquette. I mean, it's still a dumb thing to do to promote a movie. WWE would later fall into this trap with movie promotions with WWE films. Yep. It is a weird thing to do. They made a lot of missteps with that kind of stuff, like the Jay Leno stuff, for instance, where they're hosting fake Jay Leno shows on it. Like I said, the Attitude Era is not as good as people remember it.
No.
But there's a lot of missteps handling it. But WCW, they broke massive ground with bringing in people like Rodman and Jay Leno and Kiss and doing that kind of stuff and even NASCAR to some extent, because you are exposing your brand to different audiences, which WWE does now all the time, like with Sports Illustrated and ESPN, filming their, wrestlers at sporting college events and stuff like that. There's a lot of innovative stuff that Eric Bischoff and those guys were doing in WCW. The problem is once again, they killed like one of the biggest storylines they ever had. You have the Goldberg, the Taser incident. You have creative control from some wrestlers. You overexpand. You don't care enough about like your talent that should be your next gen talent, which would have been your Chris Jericho's, your Dean Malenko's of the world. So it's I don't know. We could do an entire show
We almost
going
did.
year by year with WCW, and it's
Yeah.
so unfortunate because growing up here in Georgia, man, WCW was life, brother. I tape traded WCW for Monday Night Raw as a young kid, so I could see both.
Nice.
But it's so crazy that it ended the way it did. The other thing is WCW's great way of doing LOL TNA finishes. It was LOL WCW before it was LOL TNA.
Well done. Yeah.
Especially around the heavyweight title in the NWO. Like, and some of that comes to Hogan, and that goes back to the Sting thing. So it's
Does.
yeah. But yeah, David Arquette winning the title, that's not his fault. They were going to do what they were going to do. If it wasn't him, it would have been Tweeter from Varsity Blues, which was his co-star from that. I'm kidding. Wasn't he the co-star in Ready to Rumble? The Tweeter
I don't
from
know.
Varsity Blues?
I do not hold that movie in high regard and memory like a lot of people do at all.
I mean, they should have had Oliver Platt actually when that would have been better.
And I love Oliver Platt, but I'm sure that movie does not age well. So, by the way, Fernando, in my humble opinion, worst moment in the history of wrestling, besides the tragic death of Owen Hart, of course. Don't know how we could ever put anything above that. But if we're talking pure nonsense, Katie Vick, worst moment in the history of professional wrestling on live TV. I still cannot believe to this day anyone thought that was a good idea, that there was a woman in that company. And by the way, now we know better, don't we? That any women in that company were okay with any of that stuff. I'm like,
Katie Vick was rough. Lita potentially getting raped by Kane. Gene Snitsky throwing her off the apron and killing the baby, and then continuing to taunt Kane with baby dolls afterwards is also pretty up there. Going back to territory days, the fake heart attack. I mean, or the heart attack that they built into a story angle. It's a pretty big one. I can't think of the promoter's name right now.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a bunch throughout history of time, right? Of like worst wrestling. I mean, yeah. Worst WCW. The worst WCW stuff is like, I don't know, anything with David Flair.
Yeah, I've always felt bad for David Flair. I'm like,
him and Crowbar were a decent little tag team there with their manager, RIP Daphne. Rest in peace, Daphne. That was a fun little thing, but yeah, for the most part, all of the new blood.
Terrible.
Like worst, do we mean just like most offensive, I guess, or do we just mean like the worst thing you've seen in wrestling?
I mean, that definition can be very expansive, I would imagine. And that's another hour. Well, kids, guess what? We're going to cut it because me and Chris get along very well and can talk about this stuff all day. But we may talk a bit off mic when we cut it here today. Chris, before we go, tell people where they can find you on the internets.
Hey, it's Chris.r.Patton on Twitter, Christopher .r.Patton on Facebook and Instagram, and the Patton Report. It's coming to you. It's going to be great. If you like video games, if you like wrestling, you like movies, music, whatever.
Banks,
we're talking about Tyra Banks. She's back there.
Thank you.
You're going to love it. It's going to be great.
There you go, kids. Chris, thanks for jumping on, man. I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I didn't expect it at all. I'm always happy to hang out in the chat and talk to people, and thank you so much for having me on, as always.
Of course, man, anytime. Well, there you have it, kids. CRP in the house. Folks, it's been a long week. It's been a trying week in some regards, and I'll leave it at that. But hopefully your week's been great, and I hope your weekend is even better. I'm getting ready to go start mine as well, because tonight my tree goes up. It's November 1st. Hate me, bring it. Let it shower down on me, because the tree goes up and so does the picture on the Facebook. And all y'all can get in the comments and be jealous of how pretty my freaking tree is. I don't care. Shower me with your hate. I'm here for it. Bring me the smoke. Okay. Folks, that's all I got for you. I don't know where I was going with that. That's all I got for you, kids. I appreciate you very much hanging out. You guys are awesome. Do me a favor, folks. BoinkStudios.com, B-O-N-K, BoinkStudios.com. Remember, if you're a Ted Lasso fan, episode number 10 comes out tomorrow. We've only got 11 and 12, and then the series rundown, season 3 rundown, and then we're done with our review, at least for now, until season 4 of Ted Lasso. So please check it out. Tom Clark's 6M podcast. Culture. It's a pop culture / geek culture podcast. We cover a lot of different stuff on the 6M. I promise you'll enjoy yourself, okay? Movies, music, Marvel, magazines, miniseries, and more. That's the 6Ms. This past week, we just released our Halloween episode. It was our review of Ghost Rider. Next week, sneak preview, Dodgeball. I think you'll like that one too. Phil and I had a lot of fun doing that one. So please go check that out. And last but not least, Tom Clark's Substack podcast. It's politics. It's human issues. It's real world stuff. Nothing like this. It's still hopefully you'll enjoy it, but it's much more subdued. It's a little bit toned down. It's some real world stuff because I need an avenue for that. I'm sure not going to do it on these shows because it wouldn't fit. So go check it out. I'm also starting a new gig on thelist.com. So go check me out there. I'm one of the news writers. My stuff should be up starting I think this weekend. Thelist.com. Show your boy some support. I would appreciate it. And I think that's all I got for you, kids. Thanks again for hanging out with us here today. Everybody have a great weekend, okay? We'll see you next week. If anything comes up, I will let you know. And again, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are the best of all time. And we will see you kids next week. Be good. All right. Appreciate you. See you Friday.